So there's still a couple of scenes in the movie she hasn't seen, but...
For a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to cover my eyes for kissing because if you know any child, no child wants to hear the noises of other people's kissing. No child.
So wouldn't you want to cover your ears then?
I cover my eyes. Okay, no, I watch, but I cover my ears.
Titanic Talk with Nelson Aspen and Alexandra Boyd. Here we feature stories from the independent documentary Ship of Dreams Titanic Movie Diaries and everything else to do with the iconic ship. From James Cameron's epic groundbreaking movie to the history and legacy of Titanic herself. Join us and our special guests as we continue the 25th anniversary celebrations of Titanic. This is your first-class ticket to everything aboard the Ship of Dreams.
I'm Nelson Aspen, and it's time for another episode of Titanic Talk. And let me see, there was the Brady Bunch, the Partridge Family, the Kardashians. I mean, we know about all these beautiful, famous families, but we've got the most beautiful, famous family in Hollywood today, at least two members of that family. And what's really nice is that they're part of the Titanic Talk family. We've got to meet the patriarch in person when we were at the Valley Film Festival not too long ago, and now it's an honor to be a part of this wonderful Titanic Talk community. Alexandra, please make the introductions.
We have Paul Carganilla and his gorgeous daughter Everly Carganilla, who have come to join us to chat about probably not just Titanic, because their world expands all across the universe. Welcome, the two of you. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
I'm very, very happy. You don't know yet, but you will starting now. I am so interested in the Titanic, and I started getting interested when my dad started collecting VHSs of the movie, and now basically the only kind of books I want for Christmas is books about the Titanic.
And
well, you know, start 'em young. And we all know a certain someone in this world who collects a lot of Titanic VHS tapes. So why were you collecting VHS tapes in particular, and why did you need more than one copy, Paul?
Well, I will answer that, but first I would like to say thank you so much for having us on. It is an honor. I am a huge fan. It's funny because right before we came on, Nelson started to kind of explain to us the format of the show, and I'm like, dude, I've heard every episode. I'm like one of your biggest fans. It's just an honor to be here. And I told Alexandra when we started talking about how she started discussing maybe possibly having us on, I said, I would love to. I would be absolutely honored, but I'm not like an expert like all the experts or cast members that have been on the show. But we are so thrilled to be here. And thank you. And so,
well, you're a Renaissance man. You're an incredible Titanic enthusiast to the point of where you came to the Valley Film Festival to see Ship of Dreams Titanic Movie Diaries. I mean, you've got a podcast, you're a Titanic enthusiast, you're a performer, you do good things for the community and in the legal world and in the healthcare world. Everly has a television show. She's one of the new generation of Spy Kids, movie star. Your other child is an actor. Your wife is a law enforcement expert and former Broadway star. I mean, this is a family of chronic overachievers.
Well, thank you. And speaking of overachieving, so to answer your question, I had dreams of having the biggest Titanic VHS collection in the world. At one point, I went home to visit my parents, and I found my double VHS brick still on my shelf, and I thought, you know, these were the highest selling VHSs of their time. And now, of course, VHS is going extinct. And I thought I would create a Titanic VHS sanctuary and see how many I could save and recover and preserve for future generations. Yeah. And so I started to collect them. I'd go to Goodwill, and some friends would give me theirs. And I had about 13 or 14. And that's when I saw, you know, Google recommended a TikTok to me of our friend, Titanic Fan 97. And at that point, this was a little over a year ago. At that point, he had like 300 and something. Right. And I just thought, I've got 13. I'm never going to catch this guy. People are mailing him VHSs from around the world. I have no chance. So,
well, now it's slightly out of control. He's been on Good Morning America. We need to get him. We need to get him.
Did you
him and his partner, and he's really a very sweet and normal guy. It's that voice and that character he's created that's completely unique and out of nowhere.
Do your impression of
Paul,
him.
did you give your VHS copies to him? What happened to them?
No, I'm not going to do it. No.
You're not going to do the impression? Oh, come on. Maybe a little bit later on. Build yourself up to it. Build yourself up to it.
Okay. My brother has a better one than me.
Even better?
I'm just
we want to hear yours before the end of the podcast. We're going to hear yours.
I still have them, but I put it on social media. I said, I told all my friends, well, my dreams have been dashed. There's this guy in Florida who's doing this, and he's got over 300. Now he has over 2,200, I believe.
What?
But
he's going for the million.
Yeah. So people still continue to send me theirs, like, don't give up on your dreams, Paul. You're always preaching that on your podcast and on your shows. Don't give up. But
you have something that nobody else has.
That's true. Yes.
And that's thanks to your wife. Tell us that story.
For our anniversary, we just celebrated 15 years, happily married, and she's surprised me completely out of left field and tracked down and got me the capstan crane wheel that Kate clutches and she's kind of leaning on.
The real one.
When she makes the decision to jump off the back of the ship. And she tracked it down and totally surprised me, and now it's hanging on our wall. It's mounted on our wall downstairs. We say hi to it every morning, right?
Yeah. Well,
what did you do when you saw it? When you opened it from the package, you must have been blown. Did you know immediately what it was?
Yes. And that is the thing. I've always wanted, being a super fan of the film, I've always been watching eBay for props and things that I could afford. And they sell like a shred of wood, a piece of a chair for hundreds of dollars. Wow. And it's like, here's a tile, but you don't know. It would be cool to own and have, but you don't know where it is in the film. It's not immediately identifiable or recognizable. So the fact that I opened the box and I knew immediately what it was, and I'm sure my jaw hit the floor, but I was completely surprised, and just so thankful and happy to have this piece of a film that has made such a huge impact on my life and is immediately recognizable. The second you see the prop, you know where it is in the movie.
What did you get her?
Put me on the spot. Now I don't even remember. I'm sure.
Can I ask Paul though, a little bit to reflect on my film, because I know our documentary Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries. I made it as a sort of I made it as many things, an archive of our experiences on the film and to utilize these diaries we had written 25 years ago. But what I didn't expect, and it's how we met through the magic of Instagram, what I didn't expect was the impact it has had on fans such as yourself. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, you probably went, oh, there's this new film. I probably have to check it out because I love Titanic. What was your experience of watching those actors and those other fans talking about the film?
I'm just going to say, for a fan, we have not the real one, but the clock there.
Yeah, Titanic Honor and Glory.
Yes, and then right underneath it is a piece of coal from the boiler room, actually from the real Titanic that's at
you
the
guys are dyed in the wool Titanic fans. I'm completely convinced.
So I was first introduced to you two through LA Beatles and the Unsinkable podcast when you went on her show, and I just want to throw it out there.
She's great.
The pleasure of co-casting with my COVE podcast and Unsinkable, and that's coming out this week, so it'll probably be in the past now. It's out now if you're listening to this now. But LA and I, we've become friends because through this internet, this Instagram community, because so I met you guys, I was introduced to the film, and I had to check it out. So I immediately texted my wife and I said, we have to watch this. And I think it was the next night was Friday night. We sat down and we watched Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries. And I just felt, and I reached out to Alexandra and I told her this right after we watched it, was just, we felt seen. And it is this thing where, yeah, sure, the movie came out decades ago, but it is still deeply embedded in the hearts of its fans, and there's a huge community around the world, and we're just now becoming connected because of, I don't know, the obviously the powers of the internet, but the accessibility that everyone has to each other now, and how amazingly kind and open everyone in this community is. Like, I sent Alexandra a message not expecting to hear back. She wrote me back like right away. Same thing with LA, and just all of these people, people in your film that I'd never dreamed I would be connected to. Zachary Douglas, Dale, Ilka, all of these fans from around the world. Now we're connected. We're writing on a regular basis to each other. And it's just such an amazing, your film is such an incredible vehicle. It was an honor to be there when it premiered out here. Just to bring the community together and to help people feel so seen and just continuously inspired by not just the network and the amazing goodwill that we have found in this family, but how the film continues to bring people together all these years later.
And drafting the next generation is evidenced by Everly. And at what point did you let Everly see the film? And like, were there certain scenes she couldn't watch? And I want to hear from her what her first impressions were and how she became hooked. So the fact that for those of you who are just listening to the podcast instead of the YouTube version, Everly is wearing a white Star Line shirt right now as well. In addition to her unicorn tiara. So maybe there was you know what? Maybe the unicorns didn't miss Noah's Ark. Maybe they were just down in the hold of the Titanic. Maybe the unicorns were on the Titanic. Yeah. So, but tell us about bringing Everly into your Titanic world.
So there's still a couple of scenes in the movie she hasn't seen, but
for a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to cover my eyes for kissing, because if you know any child, no child wants to hear the noises of other people's kissing. No child.
So wouldn't you want to cover your ears then?
I cover my eyes. Okay, no, I watch, but I cover my ears.
So you mentioned she's an actress. She's done films. She's worked for several years since she was 5. She's worked regularly, and now she's 9. But she's so interested in the entire process. What do you keep telling me you want to be when you grow up?
Director.
She wants to be a director.
Welcome to my world, Everly. I have a nonprofit called Artemisia's Daughters, and it's absolutely about bringing on and inspiring young women to pick up a camera or a sound boom or even a clapperboard and start making movies. So we shall talk later.
And she's so interested in screenwriting, and I'm a self-taught screenwriter, and so I've been helping her just kind of learn the basics at this age, and of course showing her what I consider to be one of the finest films in all of history is a huge educational point that I wanted to make with her. So we sat down and we watched it when you were what, like 6?
The first time I watched it I was 6, and then that movie I never saw it again until I was like 8.
Yeah, but then we
did it scare you, or did you like it immediately? Did you think it was romantic?
I was kind of like, cool, okay, but now I'm like, can we watch it, please, 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 please? Because I don't know what it is about that movie, but Daddy even gave me one of his VHSs, and now it's in my room.
Is it the
costumes? Is it Leonardo DiCaprio because he's so cute? Is it the love story? Is it the history?
I guess maybe it's just the history. I don't know what it is, but I'm just interested in the Titanic, and I like anything that has to do with it.
What other stuff do you have? I mean, you said you've got some props around the house, but do you what do you collect? Do you collect books on the Titanic or any sort of
I'm working on it. There's a whole section in my school library about the Titanic, and at the end of the year, I'm gonna check out all of the books about the Titanic. The one that I really, really, really want, though, that they don't have, is Truth About the Titanic.
And
maybe we'll have to get that and donate it to the school library.
Yeah.
She's slowly just picking up she'll tell me random facts about like how long it is, how many people were on it, and
wait, how many people were on it? It was, did you say 3 or 2? 2?
It depends on who you ask, either 2,223 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. But I think, it's one of those things that when I was her age was when the Ballard stuff was happening. And when I was sitting on my grandparents' Davenport and they got the new National Geographic with all the pictures in it. It was probably 86-ish. And that's around the time I just became so interested in it, just seeing the images. And I had no idea the story behind it, but I was just fascinated. It felt like we were looking inside a graveyard or a tomb. And just the before and after pictures, I just remember being that young, probably her age, 6 or 7, and just having my mind blown by imagining people were on this when it went down, and just the tragedy that it was, and the beauty of the thing, and the hubris, and it's just all just hooked me from that young age. And then when the Cameron film came out, of course, I was absolutely.
And you saw it so many times in the theater, right? You back in '97.
I did. I was lucky enough to have my brother was working at the movie theater. So whenever they weren't completely sold out, I could just come in at the last minute, and I got to see it. I counted 10 times the original release in theaters.
That's fantastic. And I wonder, we all have that sort of similar thing. Alexandra less so. Alexandra came to the Titanic story around 96. You weren't particularly grabbed by
my interest in it because I needed a job. I wanted a job. I definitely wanted the job after I did all the research with Nelson. I was like, oh my gosh, what an incredible experience this would be to be invited to be part of. And then I don't know if you know the full story, but I didn't get the part I auditioned for. I auditioned for the Countess of Roths. And I heard that the part had been cast to somebody else, and I sort of forgot about it for about 3 weeks until I got the phone call from the casting office to say, actually, James Cameron liked your audition so much, he's going to give you another part. Will you come along and be one of the first class passengers? So that was, and then of course, by the time I showed up, he was like, you've done all this research, because it had all come out in my audition that I'd written. And I was like, but it was the most fun research to do ever. Fun as in completely intriguing, and the history and the stories that just go on and on and on. And still, I'm sure with the 1,500 people that survived, we haven't heard every single story of the survival or a survivor by any stretch of the imagination. There's so many still out there.
And looking at the Carganilla family Instagram page and all of your travels and adventures around, I'm wondering, maybe I bet you would go nuts on a cruise. Maybe a cruise is in your future. I don't. Was that something the family would want to do? And let's talk about your the mom and brother Noah. Are they Titaniacs as well?
Not Noah too much. When I say, "Oh, Noah, look at this," he's just like, "Oh, are you looking at the Titanic stuff?" And then he just goes and does something else.
I think Everly and I are the bigger Titanic fans in the family, but Noah and Everly both came with me to the Titanic conference in Vegas this past August, and sat through most of it. They did. And
who did you get to meet, Everly? Who did you meet at the Titanic Con?
Well, I met a lot of people. I don't know if I could name them all, but the person that I met first, I think it was Bill Willard.
He's the gentleman who hosts the conference every year, Bill Willard, yeah.
Did you meet Louis Abernathy?
Yes, yeah.
He's a character.
Yeah.
And you're going to have your podcast is going to has an episode about that, correct?
Yeah, my podcast. It's a variety podcast. We have, I call it a grab bag or a jambalaya. Every week we have an episode drop. It's called COVE Podcast, Carganilla Online Variety Entertainment Podcast. And we did one. It's a travel blog on our trip to Vegas and Titanic Con 2023.
And we brought all the viewers along with us, and it was not crazy because they weren't really in the car with us.
Right, they're virtual viewers, yes. And I've also got, I did one of my episodes is an interview with Judy Preston-Incy, who you've had on as a guest as well. I have an interview with Zach Douglas that's coming out soon. I'm on another one with the LA Beatles, as I mentioned, coming out next week. And so, yeah, it's obviously we offer a wide variety of entertainment offerings, but since Titanic is so deeply embedded in my blood, a lot of our episodes over there are Titanic themed.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in the Spy Kids franchise that Everly's involved with. Have you finished filming that? What's the status of that, and where can we check it out?
Yes, I have finished. It's out on Netflix. September 22nd is when it came out. Netflix.
And what was it? I mean, you're for lack of a better description, you're a professional child. So you've grown up working in show business. But what was special about the Spy Kids experience?
Well, it was special because when I was at least 7, when I heard that I was booking it, I watched all the Spy Kid movies, 1 to 3, and I loved them so much. So, and the Spy Kids franchise is it's a really big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it made me feel so amazing just to be in that part of that franchise.
Yeah, that's a very exclusive club, and Mr. Rodriguez he's a bit of a legend himself.
Amazing, yeah.
Now what about working with James Cameron? Is that on your bucket list?
Yeah.
That would be pretty awesome.
Avatar 3, I'm sure they're casting.
I was hoping our paths would cross because, James and Robert actually worked together on Alita, Battle Angel, and other things like that. We got to watch on Robert's property. He has an entire studio. His Troublemaker Studios is out there in Austin, Texas. We spent the summer out there when they were making the movie. And he's got a screening room that was gifted to him by James Cameron. All the technology and the setup and the amazing theatrical experience that only James Cameron can gift a friend, I suppose.
I'm surprised James Cameron hasn't started a chain of cinemas. Remember, like the Magic Johnson cinemas? I'm surprised there's not a James Cameron theater chain. That would seem to make sense. And you're a filmmaker as well, Paul, because you are a Renaissance man, and I think you do everything. But you're probably a professional ice hockey player, astronaut, scientist,
brain surgeon.
Let's talk about the filmmaking, because there's a Titanic connection in some of that as well, right?
Yeah, well, I was very inspired. I was, a sophomore in high school when the movie came out, and that's about the time when you're trying to decide what you want to do with your life. So having seen such an incredible epic, Hollywood epic in theaters really inspired me to follow kind of that path. And at the end of high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I wanted to do music. I wanted to be an actor. And I ended up just I focused on and put all my eggs in the basket of acting. And so I was hired by Disney right out of college, and I worked at the theme parks in different shows for 15 years. But during that time, that's when YouTube was starting to boom, and that's when you could start to put out your own work. And independent creators just had so many new options. So that's kind of when I started to pick up the camera and learn how to use that. And I started to learn how to write a script. And my friends and I were making web series and short films, and it kind of just evolved as like a self-taught journey. I would say the culmination was a few years back. I was able to produce my own feature, which is out there in the YouTubes now, because when it finally got finished, it was like COVID hit and film festivals were shutting down, and it was kind of a horrible timing on that end. But I think over the course of my life so far, I've been able to develop a very well-rounded sense of filmmaking. And while I never hit it big like this one did right off the bat, I think that a lot of my experiences and my wife's experiences throughout life has really helped us support what she wants to do at this young age. So it's all been a blessing, and I feel like it was all kind of meant to be. The way the journey has progressed is how it was meant to, and we're just happy to follow her and watch all the big things that she's doing.
And I want to know that there's a Titanic connection in the film, yes?
Oh, yes. Well, whenever you're writing a script, when you get to name characters or put dialogue together, it's fun to drop in things that are mean a lot to you. So my character in the film's name is Leo, and there's a character whose name is Rose, and so Leo cracks a couple of Titanic jokes in the movie, but they go over her head because she's too young. It's just a fun kind of a thriller comedy. It's about a group of ghost hunters, and
Wait, isn't your name Mark in The Haunted Man?
No, that's the other lead. We'll have to watch it again. But
she needs to rewatch it.
It's just a super fun movie that we were able to put together in a haunted hotel that's out here in Santa Paula, California, and we spent a week there shooting the movie, and it was a good, amazing experience to do with my friends. And anytime, as I'm sure Alexandra knows, when you're making something that's from your heart, you try to weave as much of yourself into it as you can. And of course, even though it was a movie about ghost hunters, there's Titanic references throughout.
Can I say, Paul, I can hear in your voice a little bit of chagrin, like you feel like this first outing as a filmmaker kind of didn't hit where you wanted because of COVID and other influences. But I didn't make my first movie until I was 50. I was running around being an actress and trying to pursue that, and thinking that, acting was pretty much all that was open to me. And I didn't direct anything until somebody asked me to direct a short film. And I'm still making films, but I'm still learning because I'm still a baby director. I've only been going about 11 years now. So don't, you can concentrate on your children and your family, but all of that is, as you say, personal experience, personal stories that you can fold into the next project. Please don't think that, put it on the shelf for now, but please don't put it away forever.
I love that. And I'm a full believer in, life is a journey. And it's about the experiences. It's not about an end goal. And any artist is putting themselves out there because they're inspired to share certain aspects of their lives or personality or their heart. And I try to tell her, how many auditions you have before you book something, and it's not about the booking, it's about what you're learning all throughout. And she has actually turned it right around back on me when I say, my dream was to be in a big hitter in Hollywood like you are, and she says, Dad, it's never too late.
Yeah.
As long as you don't have too much plastic surgery and you look your age as you go. That's what somebody told me. You can go back to acting, Alexandra, as long as you don't do too much Botox, because they'll be looking for 70-year-old actresses that don't look 45.
Exactly. Yes.
And wait, I want to get one, but with our remaining moments left, I want to make sure I mention you've got some Titanic themed fan fiction. When I think of fan fiction, I tend to think about, superheroes and supervillains and the comic book world, but you've got a Titanic fan fiction?
Starting to work on it. Yeah. This all stemmed from teaching Everly screenwriting. And what do we say about the villains in screenwriting?
That the villains are their own hero and their own story.
And so,
like, if any of you have ever seen the Mario movie, no?
Okay.
Well,
Alexandra and I haven't, but we'll put it on our list. But I'm sure tons of people have.
The people that have seen it out there, the people that have seen it out there in the world, you know that the villain, being who he is, just wants full power and to take over the world, and that seems pretty cool, right?
Right.
Yeah. But he's actually doing something that he shouldn't do. So, to him, the good guy is actually the bad guy.
Right.
To the good guy, the bad guy. Yeah, you get the idea.
So,
yeah. And Paul, your hero is whom?
That's right, Cal Hockley, of course. We were having this discussion about how every villain is the hero of his own film, and I thought, how fun would it be to explore, because there's so many discussions you could have about how awful Rose was to everyone in her life until she met Jack, and I thought it would be fun to explore Cal's story, why he is the way he is. You start with the flashbacks to childhood kind of a thing, and we see how his father treated women, and how he would try to impress his father, and he never could quite, and so he's always on this journey to one up his father in the business and in life and in relationships, and he thinks he's got the perfect match with Rose, and then she becomes kind of the villain, and Jack and Rose team up to defeat him, and I thought it'd be a really fun thing to explore, and so I'm just kind of putting that together and seeing where that's going to go.
Oh,
I think that's fantastic. I mean, everybody's got a point of view, and you're right. Every person is the hero in their own story, no matter if they're good or bad.
Yes, and we know as actors, and Everly, you know this, that whatever you present in the scene or in the story or the film or the play that you're in, you create for yourself a backstory. Or, when I was at drama school, it's like, what did your character have for breakfast? What school did they go to? Just like you're saying, what was their upbringing like that brought them to be this character? You don't just say the lines, you have an idea of what happens to that person when they're not on camera or in the scene, and that helps you round out your performance. I love the backstory of Cal. I also want to see him at boarding school being just bullied by all the other kids.
I'd like to see him in boarding school, but that's another story for another time. All right, we're going to have to wrap this up now, but we are going to be fully expecting updates. We're going to follow you along. Tell us your Instagram account so we can all in Titanic Talk land follow you.
She's at Everly Carganilla. I'm at Paul Carganilla. And our podcast is at COVE Pod on Instagram. And yeah, thank you. It's been an absolute honor to.
We love you guys. We're so happy to be together with you guys. And really, when I say that this Titanic Talk extended family, it sounds so corny, and it's absolutely true. It's really a special thing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review. And if you'd like to hear more podcasts like this, hit the subscribe button. For information on where you can see Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries, go to shipofdreamsfilm.com. Titanic Talk is a production of Ship of Dreams Film Limited.